गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय नित्य लीला प्रविष्ट ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य स्तोत्र शत श्री श्रीमद्भाय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय नित्य लीला प्रविष्ट ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य स्तोत्र शत श्री श्रीमद् भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर गोस्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय नित्य लीला प्रविष्ट ओम विष्णुपाद श्रील गौर किशोर दास बाबू जी महाराज की जय। जय नित्य लीला प्रविष्ट ओम विष्णुपाद श्रील सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय। जय नित्य लीला प्रविष्ट ओम विष्णुपाद वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्रील जगन्नाथ दास बाबू जी महाराज की जय। श्री गौरीय वैष्णव गुरुवर्ग की जय। नमाचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्री वसति गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। गंगा माई की जय, जमुना माई की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, तुलसी देवी की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। all glories to Mudavaris, Hare Krishna, all glories to Mudavaris, Hare Krishna, all glories to Mudavaris, Hare Krishna. Shri Shri Baladev Purnima Mahotsav ki jai. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, reading today from Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 21, Text 7. Akshanvatam phalamidam na param vidamaha. Sakhya pashun anuvisheshayator vayasyahi. Vaktram vrajesa sutayoranuvenu jushtam. Yairvani pita manurakta kataksha moksham. Akshanvatam phalamidam na param vidamaha. Sakhya pashun anuviveshayator vayasyahi. Vaktram vrajesha sutayor anuvena jushtam. Yairvani pita manurakta kataksha moksham. Akshanvatam phalamidam na param vidamaha. Sakhya pashun anuviveshayator vayasyahi. Vaktram vrajesa sutayor anuvena jushtam. Yairvani pita manurakta kataksha moksham. Akshanvata phalamidam na param vidamaha. Sakhya pashun anuviveshayator vayasyahi. Vaktram vrajesha sutayor anuvenu jushtam. Yarvani pitam anurakta kataksha moksham. Shri Gopya Uchuhu Akshanvatam Phalamidam Naparam Vidamaha Sakya Pashunahanu Viveshayator Vayasyahi Vaktram Brajesha Sutayoranuvenu Jushtam Yairva Nipitam Anurakta Kataksha Moksham Shri Gopya Uchuhu Akshanvatam Phalamidam Naparam Vidamaha Sakya Pashun Anuvisheshayator Vayasyahi Areshavtayoranuvena Jushtam Yarva Nipitam Anurakta Kataksha Moksham Shri Gopya Uchuhu Akshanvatam Phalamidam Naparam Vidamaha Sakya Pashun Anuvisheshayator Vayaksayahi Vaktram Vrajesha Tayoranuvena Jushtam Yairvani Pitam Anurakta Kataksha Moksham Akshanvatam Phalamidam Naparam Vidamaha Sakya Pashun Anuviveshayator Vayasyahi Vaktram Vrajesha Sutayoranuvenu Jushtam Yairva Nipitam Anurakta Kataksha Moksham Shri Gopya Uchuhu Akshanvatam Phalamidam Naparam Vidamaha Sakya Pashun Anuvisheshayator Vayasyahi Vaktram Vrajesha Sutayoranuvena Jushtam Yairva Nipitam Anurakta Kataksha Moksham. So, this text is from the 10th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 21, as we know. Srila Prabhupada translated up to text 14. But this text is also translated in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 4, text 155. And so I'll be reading the translation and purport that Srila Prabhupada gave in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Akshanvatam, of those who have eyes. Phalam, the fruit. Idam, this. Na, not. Param, other. Vidamaha, we know. Sakyaha, O friends. Pashun, the cows. Anuviveshayatoho, causing to enter one forest from another. Vayasyahi, with their friends of the same age. Vaktram, the faces, Vraja Isha of Maharaj Nanda, Sutayaho, yeah, of the two sons, Anuvenu Jushtam, possessed of flutes, Yahi, by which, Va, or, Nipitam, imbibed, Anurakta, loving, Kata, Aksha, glances, Moksham, giving off. The gopis said, O friends, those eyes that see the beautiful faces of the sons of Maharaj Nanda are certainly fortunate. As the two sons enter the forest, surrounded by their friends, driving the cows before them, they hold their flutes to their mouths and glance lovingly upon the residents of Vrindavan. For those who have eyes, we think there is no greater object of vision. And purport. Like the gopis, one can see Krishna continuously if one is fortunate enough. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said that sages whose eyes have been smeared with the ointment of pure love can see the form of Shyama Sundar, Krishna, continuously in the centers of their hearts. This text from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 21, Text 7, was sung by the gopis on the advent of the Sharat season. And once again the translation. The gopis said, O friends, those eyes that see the beautiful faces of the sons of Maharaj Nanda are certainly fortunate. As these two sons enter the forest, surrounded by their friends, driving the cows before them, they hold their flutes to their mouths and glance lovingly upon the residents of Vrindavan. For those who have eyes, we think there is no greater object of vision. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Soyam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karura Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratashe Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Rabo Rabaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, today we are again celebrating Baladev Purnima, which is of course a very significant day in our Vaishnav calendar, and hopefully I'll be able to say a few things pertinent to it. So we're reading, again this is the beginning of the Venu Geet, which is of course one of the prans, as they say. There's the different life airs of Srimad Bhagavatam, and one of them is Venu Geet, a very esoteric section of the Bhagavatam. And we see some rather interesting things, of course. In this section, there is the glorification of both Krishna and Balaram. Krishna and Balaram together, and there's much to be said of Krishna and Balaram together. We know, of course, there are two types of Prakash expansions. And in the pastimes of Vraj, there are two primary categories. Well, there's two primary categories in general, but we'll see. There's, of course, the Prabhav expansions that are direct, where it is the Swayam Rup, Krishna himself, expanding exactly the same of himself, same color, same mood. And then, of course, there's the Vaibhav expansions, the Vaibhav Prakash, which are a little bit distinct, right? Which is, of course, the category to which Baladev belongs to. And so Baladev is interesting, because when we see the expansions of the Lord, traditionally, conventionally, we know that as the Lord expands, of course, also with his Shakti potency, right? When the Lord expands into Ramchandra, there we have Sita, right? And so on and so forth, Lakshmi, Narayan, like this. But when Balaram expands, we don't hear much of that, right? There's not much of the Shakti that Balaram carries with him. Lots of people identify the Shakti as Ananga Manjari. This seems to develop a little bit after the six Goswamis. But that seems to be a conventional identification. And yet, again, we don't hear much of that in the Goswami literature. And so it seems to not be such a substantial point of interest. In fact, of all the expansions, we can really say the two that don't really, besides, of course, Balaram, that don't really have much prominence for Shakti Tattva are Nara Narayan. And that's obviously because they're brahmacharis. I mean, pretty lousy brahmacharis if they're bringing Shakti Tattva with them, right? And of course we have Mohini, who is, of course, a feminine form, so that would become a bit, redundant. So we see in this way, besides that, there is a predominance of Shakti and Shaktiman. And yet we see with Balaram, this is not so much emphasized. This is, of course, speaks to the special nature of Balaram. Balaram, he is, of course, Sevak Bhagavan. He is not Savior Bhagavan. He is Bhagavan in the mood of servitude. And so his primary mood is not, of course, to enjoy his energies, but rather to serve Krishna, to be together with Krishna. And so even though Balaram is Vishnu Tattva, he is Vishnu Tattva in a way accompanying Krishna. He is Vishnu Tattva in a way that he is consistently serving Krishna. Of course, we see this as well in Ram's pastimes, right? Lakshman, he does eventually get married, right? But what we see is Urmila, his wife, once Ramchandra gets exiled, he doesn't bring Urmila with him, right? Here we see again this principle, right? Yes, there is some sort of associated feminine side, but still, Lakshman, he prioritizes his service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who he is also. So we see here an emphasis of the two brothers together. And of course, our acharyas have given all sorts of rasic interpretations of this text, and I don't wish to dwell on them too much. But of course, one argument that's said is, not argument, one thing that's said is that the reason why the gopis focus on these two personalities is because they don't wish to very openly declare that they specifically find Krishna beautiful. They're trying to keep their madhurya hidden a bit from public perception. But even though we can take that, we can also say Balaram has as much enchanted all of Vraj. And how do we know this? Well, we see it in this text itself. Vaktram Vrajesha Sutayor. What is this? Vraja Isha Sutayoho, right? Yoho in Sanskrit means two, right? It's the jewel. Sometimes people think, why does Sanskrit doesn't have singular and plural like we have in English, right? It's singular jewel and then plural, right? And people think, why should there be twos? But actually it makes sense. People come in pairs, hands come in pairs, eyes come in pairs, ears come in pairs. Lots of things come in pairs, and so it's not the most absurd thing to have a jewel number. So they're coming, two of them, two suttas, two children. But children of who? Vraja Isha. Who is Vraja Isha? Nanda Maharaj. Oh, but this isn't right, is it? How can we say Balaram, he is the son of Nanda Maharaj? How could we make this point? Can we say the Bhagavatam has some error in it? No. But then how can we say this, right? Well, in order to discuss that, we'll discuss a little bit of the birth of Balaram, and then if we have time, we'll discuss a little bit more about Balaram. So, we know, of course, Devaki and Vasudev, they're kept in the prison together. Kamsa, he's embodying all demonic people. He gets told he has at least 8 years or so to live, right? That's how long it takes to produce a child, I think, right? Something around that, right? So he's given quite a lot of time. And what does he do? Like all the demons do when they're reminded of their mortality. He thinks, oh, I'll freak out, right? I'll panic. I saw recently online there's some guy who takes the blood out of his son and injects it in himself to try and extend his life. So, and apparently he's slowed down his aging by a few months by doing this. But this is crazy, right? But this is the mindset of the demonic person. And so Kamsa, he is having this demonic mindset, right? By hook or by crook, I'll betray my own family members. I'll kill all these children. Only just for what? 8 years. And again, what do we see in our beautiful Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam? Shukdev Goswami, he gets told 7 days. And what does he do? He doesn't freak out. He thinks, let me hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Actually, we all have 7 days to live. We will either die on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or a Sunday. So we all also only have 7 days that we can die on. So we too should be like Shukdev Goswami and hear the Srimad Bhagavatam. So in this way, Kamsa, he's embodying this. And as we know, all these children, they're being born and then they're being done away with. Very famously, these are the 6 children of Marichi, right? And so they're all of the different variations of what the mind can produce, right? Some identify these children with, kama, krodha, loha, moha, right? This, lust, anger, greed, all these things, right? Some people identify it with that list. Other people identify the 6 children with the senses, touch, sight, hearing, like this. Either way, all of these children of Marichi, they represent the ways that the mind captures us, puts us into its own control. And so each one of these 6 children, they're appearing and they're not really escaping. And then finally appears, of course we know there's 2 Krishnas. There's Krishna and Vraj, Vrajanath Krishna, and there's Krishna and Dwarka, there's Dwarkanath Krishna. The same is true of Balaram, right? There is Devaki Nandan Balaram and there's Rohini Nandan Balaram. And so, as we can imagine, Devaki Nandan Balaram is an expansion of Rohini Nandan Balaram. And so this one enters into the womb of Devaki. And of course, this Balaram, one of his names, I was looking up here, they have all the names, and one of them is Shesh, right? The translation that's given up here is Lord Shesh. One of the translations, one of the meanings of the name Shesh is he who can escape, he who can flee, he who can run away. And so we see Balaram, he is Adi Shesh. He is the first to escape the prison cell that they're all being held in. So Adi Shesh is there, first to appear, first to do a runner, right? And he appears in this womb. Now some people, often they wonder, how can we say all of these faults or these anarthas, they're appearing in the womb of Devaki? She has such a transcendental, beautiful womb, right? How can we say? We don't have any issue thinking that Balaram could appear, Adi Shesh could appear. We don't have any issue thinking that Vasudev Krishna could appear. But how can all these faults appear? Well, actually, our acharyas, they're very clear. They appear in the same way, that the soul is untouched by matter, and yet it appears to have some sort of contact with matter. It appears in the same way that Krishna and his dham appear in this world, and they appear to touch this world, but they don't. In the same way, these initial children appear. Right? So, they appear like this, and then Balaram appears, Adi Shesh, the first to escape the prison. He is there. And of course we know Balaram, he is what? He is a Khanda Guru Tattva. He is the original Guru Tattva. From him, he is the Shamashti Guru Tattva. This is another term, the mass sum of Guru Tattva. And when a Guru appears in our life, they are what? They are the Vyasti Guru Tattva. They are the singular representative of Balaram. And we'll discuss this more as we continue our discussion of this text. But he is appearing here representing the Guru Tattva. And so, of course, very clearly we see the point. Before Krishna can appear in us, before we can be graced by Krishna, first we must be graced by the Guru. First the Guru must become present. We know in the Kaliya Daman pastime, right? Krishna, he goes and he climbs up what before he jumps into dance with Kaliya? What does he climb up? The Kadamba tree, right? And why does this Kadamba tree survive? The poison of Kaliya has killed all the other trees, right? Why does this one tree survive? The nectar, right? Garuda, he was doing a runner, right? And some amrit drops. Of course, this is the external reason. But the internal reason why this one tree survived is greater than the amrit of the demigods. This tree received the Vaishnav Charanamrit, right? This tree had Garuda place his lotus feet upon it. And by receiving the blessings of the Vaishnav, by receiving the lotus feet of the Vaishnav, this tree was able to survive all of this. And not only was it able to survive all of this, but it was able to have the lotus feet of Krishna placed upon it as well. So first, the lotus feet of the Vaishnav must grace the heart. First, That must grace the heart. And then Krishna can appear. So we see this, Balaram, he appears, Adi Shesh. And then he does, as I said, Shesh means he who escapes. And he escapes away. Then of course Krishna appears, and we're all familiar with the rest of the story, right? In a few days' time we'll be hearing it again. So this happens. And then at this point, this fraction of Rohini Nandan Baladev is moved back into the womb of Rohini. And at this point, of course, there's some stress. Kamsa, he's a tyrant, right? It is not safe here in Mathura. So Vasudev, he tells Rohini, he says, you should leave. And he gets this big black mare ready, and he tells her, you sit on this, and you sit on this and you go to Nanda Maharaj, he will take care. Of course, it's black because she's going to leave in the middle of the night. And so she departs away. At the same time, as her departure, however, in Vraj, Nanda Maharaj and Jasodama, they're having some conversations. What conversations are they having? They're speaking about how, in their dreams, there is appearing this beautiful, dark, Ghanashyam blue boy, right? And this boy, he's appearing in their dreams, and they're thinking, wow, I just feel like he could really fit in this Vraj place. This boy, he could really add something to what we have going here. All the Vrajvasis, they're feeling, there are different types of pains of separation, right? And the initial one is the pain of separation of anticipation. I have heard that there is a person named Krishna, and I would like to see him. In the Prakat Leela, in the earthly pastimes, this is the mood of all the Vrajvasis. The younger ones who are born as Krishna is older, they're waiting. When will I be old enough that I can see in the forest and I'll be able to see this Krishna walking around with his flute? When will I reach such an age? And this is their desire. All the older gopis, as Krishna is young, they're thinking, when will Nanda Maharaj be relaxed enough to let him walk around so we can see him as we do our chores around in Vraj? This is this initial pain of separation. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, he says that this is the only pain of separation that we can actually experience prior to attaining our own forms, right? Because we have not yet seen Krishna. So, in this way, everyone in Vraj, they're feeling anticipation. But they don't even know yet what are they feeling anticipation for. Yogamaya has covered that part of their hearts so that the pastime can happen. So they're all very eager. And everyone in Vraj, they're confused. Why are we so eager for Mother Jashoda to give birth? But they are. They're so very excited. But at this point, it's not even known if Mother Jashoda is pregnant or not. We can see actually this birth of Krishna in Vraj is born from Harikatha. So it is one thing we should receive the lotus feet of the Vaishnav, but we should also hear from the Vaishnav. If we meet a devotee, right? A devotee who understands and realizes these things, isn't just repeating them, but has some grasp of these things. And if we hear from it, because this is what's happening. Nanda Maharaj and Mother Jashoda, they're discussing their dreams. They're discussing the form of this beautiful boy. And through that sharing of Harikatha, together, then Krishna, he becomes present in the womb of Mother Jashoda. It is through Harikatha that Krishna appears. So, in this way, they're all discussing. And then at this point, a certain individual, she arrives. Purnamasi. Purnamasi, as we know, she is named after the full moon. And why is she named after the full moon? Now she is about to bring very special news. Mother Jashoda, she is bearing a child. And so, like the full moon, appears in the night, and it dispels away the darkness. We will see this tonight. We will not need so much lighting, right? The full moon will provide so much illumination for us. So too, Purnamasi, she takes this tension of separation. Krishna is not present. Krishna is not here. And being like the full moon she is named after, she will dispel this darkness. This darkness that they are all feeling. Krishna is not here. But not only Krishna is not here, Balaram is not here either. She is the full moon appearing. And that darkness will go away. And soon Vraj will be celebrating the presence of those two sons of Vrajesha. Don't worry, I will get to my question that I posed earlier soon about how we can call them the sons of Nanda Maharaj. And so in this way, she does that. Now, of course, she appears with Madhu Mangal. Madhu Mangal is coming with her, the farcical Brahmin, the joking Brahmin. As she appears, different acharyas give different descriptions of her. Jiva Goswami, he describes her as wearing a saffron cloth as she enters in. And the reason why she's described as wearing saffron is, of course, Purnamasi, she's a mystic, right? This is how she plays around with everyone in Braj. She has this sort of mystical role, right? And in that, she's able to facilitate the pastimes happening. And so the saffron represents her more mystic aspect. Jiva Goswami, alternatively, he dresses Purnamasi in white. And white makes sense. Again, the moon, right? We know the moon, it makes the tides go up and it makes the tides go down. It controls the movements. And so too, Purnamasi, she plays this role in Braj. She is controlling the movements of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, we can say. The high tide and the low tide. And now we're about to hear of the high tide. So she appears and she tells them, oh, I have some very special news. Mother Jashoda, she has a child. And everyone is jubilant. Everyone is so happy. Everyone is so in such a celebratory mood. But as she shares, as she's sharing this mood, somebody else has arrived. And this is, of course, Rohini. Now, Rohini, Rohini is also a constellation, in the sky, right? And the constellation appears represented by a cow, right? And not any cow, a cow of a specific color. There's a specific color that the Rohini constellation is colored, and that is Aruna, right? Which is a reddish brown, like rust, like the color of rust. And in rasa theory, we all know rasa theory, not to get too technical, but in rasa theory, right? Colors are associated to different rasas, to different moods, right? Balaram's color, we know Prabhupada writes in one letter, Balaram, he is milkish white. And this correlates to sakyaras. To hasyaras, to humor, to laughing. That's why we see Balaram, Krishna, and the Gopas. They're laughing all the time. This is presided over by Balaram with his milkish white color. Shyam is the color of Shringaras or Madhurya ras. We can piece together why Krishna will be Shyam, right? But then Aruna, this specific color, this represents Sakyaras. And so, Mother Rohini, she's named after that constellation that is of that color of Sakyaras. And from her, that presiding deity of Sakyaras, that presiding deity of Sambandhanuga, Sri Sri Balaram, he will appear. And so she appears, and she's there, and she's riding and bearing a child. And of course she gives birth on Shravan Purnima, which is today. She gives birth. Now, in the Garga Samhita, it seems to say that Balaram was actually born 6 days after Krishna. And that's why you'll see, if we go to Vrindavan, I don't want to get into too much of a technicality, but if we go to Vrindavan, you'll see sometimes they celebrate Balaram Jayanti on a different day than we do. That's because they tend to put more emphasis on this text. But we, as Gauriya Vaishnavas, cannot really accept this conclusion. They are free to do whatever they want. But we are, of course, following Amalam Puranam, Srimad Bhagavatam. And Srimad Bhagavatam is rather clear, right? Garga Muni, when he appears, what does he do? Garga Muni, he enters into these pastimes and he performs the sanskars at the same time, right? Are we to think that Balaram, he's waiting around a whole extra year? Because if he's born a few days after Janmashtami, then he would have to be just under a whole year older, right? So then there's like a whole year lag. And we hear Krishna and Balaram, they're playing together. How could they play together if they're not the same age, right? There would be this lag. And so for this reason, we don't accept this. We say that Balaram, he's born only a few days before Krishna, right? That's why we see still the murtis of Krishna and Balaram, whenever they're assembled, whenever they're constructed, right? What do we see? Balaram, he's just a tiny bit taller than Krishna. If you see people who carve murtis, they'll make this point. They always make Balaram a tiny bit taller, but not too much taller. He's only a few days older. So in this way, we see Balaram. He is born, and Rohini, she gives birth to him, and there's a beautiful, beautiful descriptions, right? His face is like the moon, his eyes are like lightning, his hair is like a rain cloud, and his complexion is like a white autumn cloud whose effulgence was like the sun. But what is very interesting is his beautiful form with all of these qualities. When he's born Jiva Goswami says dull, right? He's not really speaking. He's not really moving. He's not really doing much. He's sort of he's alive, but he's not really too vibrant. But the only time some vibrancy comes to him as a child is when Mother Jashoda will pick him up and he's placed next to her womb. Because then life appears. Again, Balaram, he does not have a life separate to Krishna, right? This is Balaram's speciality as an expansion. And so then he comes to life and he's excited. And then, of course, Krishna is born. And when Krishna is born, then there's much life to Balaram. Lots of life to Balaram. And so Balaram becomes very excited, very happy. So, of course, Balaram, he's born older. Older than Krishna. And of course, the reason for this, we read in Chaitanya Charitamrita, starts all the way back in Treta Yuga. We know Lakshman and Ramchandra. Lakshman is what? Is he the older brother or the younger brother of Ramchandra? Younger, right? And so it's the younger brother. And Chaitanya Charitamrita explicitly says, Dukkha. The pastimes of Ram, they're very sad, right? And sad for who? For Lakshman, right? This poor guy. And Chaitanya Charitamrita says, why are they sad for Lakshman? Because he's the younger brother. Chaitanya Charitamrita says this explicitly. We know this. Early on, before Ramchandra got married to Sita, Lakshman, he had so much joy in the palace. He's doing all the chores. He's taking care of Ramchandra. He's cleaning everything. He's tidying everything up. Ramchandra, he's the moon of Lakshman's existence. And then when Sita gets married, she tolerates this for a few days. But then at one point she tells Ramchandra, she says, my dear husband, I also would like to serve you. I also would like some service. Please give me some. And Ramchandra thinks, what do I do? And then he gives way. And he calls Lakshman into the room and he says, Lakshman, you are my glorious brother. Do a little less service for me. Just do a tiny bit less. And Lakshman, he had to accept it. He's the younger brother, so he said, okay. Well, we all know this, especially those of us who are serving under a spiritual master. Sometimes you'll get an instruction and you think, I don't want to follow this. But then you think, I have to. This is the hierarchy of things. I should accept this. Even if we don't have a spiritual master, maybe just we all have a guru one way or another, if we accept it or not. But if we have an authority, all right, we'll give an instruction and we think, I don't want to do this, but we have to accept it. So in the same way, Ramchandra gives this instruction and Lakshman, he thinks, I have to accept it. So he does this and he gives up a lot of this. Then later on, as they go into the forest, and as I said, Lakshman, he abandons Urmila, again showing his mood of dependency on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sevak Bhagavan, attached to Savior Bhagavan. As he does this in the forest, what happens is he's very bored. He's a Pakka Kshatriya. He wants to fight something, right? And what's he doing? He's picking flowers, picking fruits, right? Getting everything ready for the ashram, eating roots. All of these things. He's thinking, this is not proper for me. And then finally, one day, Kara and Dushan, they appear with an army of over 10,000 Rakshasas. And finally, Lakshman, he thinks, oh wow. Now I get to have some fun. And what does Ramchandra tell him to do? Hey, you go, you take Sita, you hide in the cave, I'll fight them. Lakshman thinks, I have to listen. And he goes over to the cave. No fighting for him. And then finally, as we know, when Sita gets banished away, who is the person who has to drive her out? Ramchandra, he tells Lakshman. He says, you tell Sita we'll go out for a picnic in the forest. And you tell her I will join later. But actually when you take her out there, you leave her there. I will not join. And Lakshman has to go. Lakshman has to do this. In some accounts as described, this is the only time that Lakshman tries to speak back to Ramchandra. And he says, why should I do this? Sita has done nothing wrong. Why do I have to do this? But Ramchandra says, I'm Maryada Purush. It must happen. So in this way, he has to go. And so it said at that moment, he thought, next time this happens, I'm the older brother. And so he is the older brother. So in this way, we see it is rooted in these pastimes that Balaram, he will be the older brother. And so we see this mood is there. Once Krishna and Balaram have appeared, of course, we know Garga Muni, he's brought into the picture. And Garga Muni, we only have 10 minutes left. So once Garga Muni, he appears and he's giving the names, right? He's doing the name-giving ceremony in secret, right? He gives different names to Krishna and Balaram, right? Of course, Balaram, he's given 3 primary names Sankarshan, he draws together. Bala and Rama, right? Rama is giving joy. Bala, he has all of that strength. But one thing that's interesting is, what does Garga Muni say? As Garga Muni is giving these names to Baladev, he says these are the names of Rohini Putra, the son of Rohini. He does not say, this is Vasudev Putra's names. These are the names of Rohini Putra. This is what is said. And so we see here, this is a recognition of what I was discussing at the beginning. Even though Baladev, yes, he is coming from Vasudev and Rohini. In that sense, of course, we see his qualities are there. He's taking care of Krishna, one, because he's the older brother, but two, because he's a real Kshatriya, right? Krishna, he's, neither here nor there. Is he a Vaishya? Is he a Kshatriya? Who knows? Ultimately, he's a Vaishya, but he's a bit of a, I don't want to say Varna Sankara, but you know what I mean? Like there's an unclear Varna to an extent. The one form of Krishna is a Vaishya, the other is a Kshatriya. But Balaram is a Kshatriya through and through. So he's more Pakka than Krishna is. And so in this way also, he's looking after Krishna the whole time. Older brother, but he's also the Pakka Kshatriya. That's also why we see when the other incarnations expand out, Vrajanath Krishna is the naughty one, but the other expansions, they tend to be much more tame because they're expanding out from this Kshatriya Balaram. They pick up that flavor, that mood. Anyways, so in this way, we see, yes, he is a Pakka Kshatriya. He is no two ways about it, right? The son of Vasudeva and Rohini. But he is Rohini Putra. And why is he Rohini Putra? He's Rohini Putra because Rohini is the one dwelling in Vraj. Rohini is the one who lives in Vrindavan. We will see this when Vasudeva visits, when Nanda Maharaj visits Vasudeva when he goes out, right? He speaks to him and he tells him, gives him an update how the kids are, right? And Vasudeva says, he is your son. It's said in Bhagavatam. When eventually, way later on, when Balaram returns to Vrindavan and, Balaram Rasayatra and all these things that, anyways, I wouldn't have discussed even. We had a lot of time, too Rasik for Bhagavatam class. But when we see Balaram Rasayatra and all these things happening, right? What does he say? He looks at Nanda Maharaj and he says, Mama. Mama Bhratur. No, I can't remember the Sanskrit. But he says, you are my parents, right? He speaks. They are my parents, right? Because Rohini, she is living in the same household, right? She is living in that household. She is participating in the community of Vraj, right? And Balaram, from his very earliest age, he's literally in the womb of Rohini as he enters into Vraj. From his birth, he is living in the house of Nanda Maharaj. So in this sense, yes, in technicality, he is born physically from Vasudeva and Rohini. But in essence, in Bhav, he is the son of Nanda Maharaj. And this is why we say Vrajesha Putra Yoho, right? We can say it's a Shiksha Parampara, right? That mood is flowing through. And because that mood is flowing through, for this reason, Balaram can be called the son of Nanda Maharaj. Because he's grown up there. And together, Krishna and Balaram, they've grown old. They've grown up together, rather. And we see this, of course, as the ages move on, as the various pastimes happen. Again, we don't have time to dive into them too much. But as they grow older, we see all these different landmarks they hit together, right? Gopashtami, as we know, once Krishna, he comes into fullness. We see rasas actually in Vrindavan, they're always kind of clashing with each other, right? Gopashtami is the victory of Sakyaras, right? And Balaram, as we know, is presiding over Sakyaras. I heard a story once of one Vrajvasi, and this Vrajvasi was convinced, I want to become a cowherd boy. This was his conviction. We can say maybe he's some elevated soul, he had a genuine insight, or maybe he didn't. Who knows? I can't tell, right? But this devotee, he went to all the different devotees around in Vraj. He went to the Babajis and Radhakund. And when he went to the Babajis and Radhakund, they all spoke of Manjari Bhav, and he said, this is so elevated, this is so high, but this is not who I am. And he went to all the different, and there was Sakhi Bhav, and there's, of course, Svakiya Bhav, and there's all these different Bhavs, and he said, this is all so very elevated and so very nice. I don't know if this is for me. But then it said he went and he saw our ISKCON Vrindavan Shri Shri Krishna Balaram Mandir with the biggest dome above Krishna Balaram, right? With Balaram, we know Prabhupada revealed his very beautiful murti form, very rare. What is Balaram doing in that temple? He's resting on Krishna's shoulder. Who is stronger, Krishna or Balaram? Prabhupada would say this. Prabhupada would say, Krishna is, because Balaram is resting on him. So in this way, he saw this form. And when he saw this murti, he said, oh, here I can attain my goal. Here I can attain my goal. Again, Balaram is the king of Sakyaras. So Gopashtami, we see, Gopashtami is this king of all events. And it's at the point where Vatsalya no longer becomes prominent anymore. Why? Because Mother Jashoda, she's thinking, I don't want Krishna to grow up. I don't want Krishna to get old. I want to keep him safe here all the time. I don't want him to go, you can playing with the calves is all right, but with the big cows, that's scary, right? What if something goes wrong? And so it's described at this point, Krishna becomes closer to his uncles than he gets to Nanda Maharaj, right? Because his uncles, when Nanda Maharaj isn't around and Mother Jashoda aren't around, they're telling him stories. When you take the big cows, you got to do this and you got to do that. And they're telling him all these exciting stories. And Krishna, he's becoming more and more excited for this Sakyaras, right? Of going with all of his friends and taking all the cows out. And Krishna's heart is getting pumped, but also his Balaram's. Instead, on the day, they wake up extra early. They're so excited. It's like Christmas, right? All these stories, and we get to live it out now. So Balaram together. And of course, Mother Jashoda, she's a little upset. If we had more time, we could discuss. There's a whole pastime with that. But anyways, so in this way, she's a little bit upset. But then finally, Krishna, he's allowed to go out. And it's described. At this point, we first hear in the Bhagavatam, chapter 15, we hear about the lotus feet, the lotus footprints of Krishna being made in the forests of Vraj. Him and Balaram, they're now entering into the forest. What we are hearing about here, what is the perfection of all eyes, we're hearing about that. And why do we first hear about the footprints then? Because Krishna, before he was too young, he didn't weigh enough to leave footprints in the forest. But now he's old enough. He's entering into this age. And now his feet, they're heavy enough. And he's leaving his impressions in the ground. And what does this mean? Now it's time, home is done. Pains of separation for Vatsalya. But the forest, who is itself a devotee, we should not think that the forest is not alive, is not filled with bhav as well. The forest is now able to have union, right? Meeting with Krishna. Now the forest has met Krishna. The whole time, the forest was waiting, just as all the Vrajvasis were waiting, right? They were all waiting for Krishna to be born. When will he come? When will he come? Now the forest says, now he has arrived. He has left his lotus feet here. He is now heavy enough to leave his footprints in the forest of Vraj. And so Krishna and Balaram together, they're leaving their beautiful footprints as they're walking around. And then this becomes the heart of Sakyaras. And then, of course, again, this whole section of the Bhagavatam is filled with all the joyous pastimes of Krishna and Balaram. I want to make one final point, though. We'll stop discussing Vraj pastime. I want to make one final point with the last few minutes I have. Because, of course, as I'm saying, Balaram, one description Rupa Goswami gives is that his skin is not milkish white. Even though this is the conventional description we have. One description is that he is like crystal. I can't remember the Sanskrit, but he looks like crystal, right? And what does this mean for somebody to look like crystal? Crystal does what? Crystal reflects. It's transparent. It's a via medium. This is Balaram. Balaram exists in the service mood. He is empty. Crystal is the service mood. I am nothing. I'm empty. I'm simply representing something else. This is Balaram. We know Dauji in Vrindavan is depicted as Shyam, right? Why is he depicted as Shyam? Not because he's actually black. He's milkish white, Prabhupada said. But it is because he is crystal. His whole existence is to magnify and represent Krishna. And this is why Balaram is Adi Guru. This is why he is the origin of the Guru Tattva. Because this is what the Guru is. Crystal. Reflecting Krishna into this world. And so we see at Naimisharanya, what are the sages doing at Naimisharanya? They're all there. They're preparing to hear the Puranas. They're preparing to hear Harikatha. But what do we hear? Canto 1, Chapter 1, Text 4 of Srimad Bhagavatam says, Svargasya Lokaya. Svargaya Lokaya. Svargaya Lokaya, I think. Anyways, it says that they are there to attain Svarga. How can we understand this? Well, it is because originally they were hearing from somebody who was not so qualified. Somebody who was not so qualified to speak the Shastras, Romaharshana Sutta. And Romaharshana Sutta, when he's speaking, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says they all developed a desire for svarga. They desired to attain some karmic nice destination. But this is not the destination that Bhagavatam gives. And so, of course, Balaram, he arrives because there's some fighting and he doesn't want to. We all know the Duryodhan. Again, I'm running low on time, so we won't get into